All right, I'm just checking to make sure that we're actually live this time before I start delving into the questions, because that has happened before. Okay. Shows I'm live, but I don't see it in the Facebook group. All right, there. All right, cool. Confirm we're actually live this time. All right, I want to welcome everybody to this month's Q&A. That's going to be specifically around websites, planning, setup, etc. If you're a member of my Tech and Marketing Made Easy membership, you had a training earlier this month that covered all of the setup basics and the planning and all of that. And so this is, for right now anyway, an open session where anybody can ask questions about websites. So I do have some in, and then I'll kind of cover some of the different types of pages and understanding their roles, because it will kind of lead into next month's topic, which is going to be Google Analytics. So our first question is going to be from Teresa, and she asks, how do I know what kind of hosting plan I need? This is very important because a lot of times you'll have, well, here, let me just go ahead and share, because I've got a couple of examples up for systems that I've used in the past and or currently use. I actually do currently use this one for a very specific site. So in the hosting world, there are kind of two, when it comes to our size of sites, two main roads to pick. You've got your self-hosted, and then you've got managed hosted. So self-hosted is where most people start out. These are usually the hosting companies that are linked to in the How to Start a Blog or a Website in 10 Minutes posts. And so they are going to have the lowest cost to them. That said, you do kind of need to understand what you're getting. So for this is actually through, I've got SiteGround's site up here because they're who I currently use for a different project. And so understanding the factors in plan, usually what people are talking about when they say this is it's either going to be how much storage space and how much space on I'm going to hold this up even though it's not a server, but we're going to pretend like this is an actual server computer. Or no, that's servers usually come in a rack. So essentially, and there's stacks of them. That's why you have stuff called tech stack. But essentially you're renting like a little chunk in space on a server that is shared with however other many sites that they choose to put on there. That means you're using all of the same resources. And so that's why they offer it for a really low cost. And the idea with this is, as you can see here, they, no, hush, Siri thinks I'm listening to her. You're committed usually for a year on these plans, which is something to be aware of. They get you in at the lower rate. And then, so that gives you time to kind of get your site off the ground, get it cash flowed. And then when you renew, usually it's at a much higher rate. So I'm going to, cost wise, we're going to look at this as what is the monthly rate or what's the monthly cost past the renewal. So effectively you're looking for at $18 a month, 15 to 18 is pretty typical. I know there's another host that I moved off of recently that that's about what they charge you for hosting. Um, a lot of this stuff means things to technical people. The biggest things here are space and how many visits you can expect to do. So that's going to be a factor whether you're doing self-hosted or managed hosted, which I'll cover in just a second. There is such a thing as like dedicated hosting. I think these are all, yeah, I'm looking at this. Yeah, so all three of these are different sizes of self-hosted plans. Then you get into something called dedicated hosting. That means you just get one of these all to yourself. Usually pretty expensive, and usually you need a lot more technical knowledge and or a person to manage a dedicated host for you. So I'm not going to go down that road. For our purposes, there's the self-hosted and then the managed hosted. If you're going with a site like Squarespace, you are, which I've got up here. So again, 18 Squarespace for that. I have it set to monthly. You're going to be paying about $23 with their current pricing monthly. That's intriguing that it doesn't. I think this is my browser. So if you see stuff struck out, just assume it's my browser. I still haven't figured that. Okay. But so you're looking at about 23 monthly for that. And Squarespace is very much, you don't have a lot of technical skill necessarily, or you're not comfortable with it. It's a good option, but you're still kind of limited with some of the control that you have in that space. My preferred option is actually WordPress plus self-hosted or managed hosted. Now, the difference between those two is all of their servers here are not necessarily like all of the updates are on me for WordPress. They're not necessarily optimized to run a WordPress system. And even if they have a lot of the WordPress, because I mean, it makes up right now, I think 40% of most of the website or the sites that are active on the web. It does, okay, they do offer auto updates for just the core, but I don't see anything about necessarily the underlying structure of WordPress, which is a code base called PHP. All you need to know is the name, doesn't matter. So there can be security issues with this, but it's also on you to keep things up to date, go in, manage, and do all of that. I've done that for the last year, decided my time is, better spent elsewhere. And so I actually have a managed through WP Engine is the company. I'm full transparency. I am an agency partner with them. And so I actually use their services for my own website. But you do have, so there's, 25,000 visits a month versus, 10,000 monthly visits. So if you're below that and have averaged that for like the last 12 months, if you already have a site and you're considering, moving it or trying to adjust it, that's what's going to do that. And yeah, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because there's a nuance between like how visits are counted versus like what you might see in Google Analytics, but that's a little too in the weeds. But the idea is that you get, so visits, how many people come to your site. So naturally, as you get more traffic to your site, there's going to be more visits. That takes up more of the resources on the server, which is why if you run past a certain point. Usually it's over a period of time. So it's not usually an immediate hit, but it's a, hey, you've been well above this for like, the last 2 or 3 months. You need to upgrade your plan. That is a normal thing, especially if you're doing well, creating content, doing all of that, because the goal is to get your site traffic, because the more traffic you've got coming, the more people see your offers, etc. But the question is like, how do you know? Well, how do I know that I need 25,000 versus 75,000? How do I know the storage wise? The bandwidth, really, that one's a little trickier to know how much you need. Really, the two big things that you're going to get, either not necessarily be in control of, but be able to understand as you were selecting your hosting plan. And yes, that even applies to this, I think. Actually, interesting thing. So they don't have caps or thresholds on, so unlimited bandwidth. That means that there's no caps on how big your site can get or how many people can come visit your site. And so that is, that's one benefit to this. However, you're still looking at the main trade-off there is that you don't really have that incentive to keep your site lean, to keep it fast, which can actually hurt your SEO and things like that in the long run. This is a pretty decent amount, and these are like estimates only. If you have traffic spikes, so if you have a seasonal thing, that's something that you can talk to your host provider, and they can usually like temporarily bump you up a tier, especially as we're going into Black Friday. If you do like sell certain products or something, that's where that comes into play. I'm focused on coaching websites, not e-commerce websites, which is why I'm answering it in this scope. So how do you know the two key questions? First of all, do you already know how many people come to visit your site per month? If you have a site, sometimes you'll have like a little internal dashboard that will do that. Sometimes it'll be something that they have their own analytics system, which it looks like, basic website metrics. That's included in there. So theoretically, you should have something on there. For people that, like me, use WordPress, that's where Google Analytics comes in, and you can actually see this is my real dashboard, real traffic, and real environment off of the last 30 days. So I'm at present with the newer site, nowhere near that 25,000. Like, I don't need to worry about that. So if you're just starting out, going with a plan like this, or if you're already going to be jumping that, going with something like this would be better. And the reason why I think this is like build it. Oh, it's 6 off your first month. So it's that. So really we're looking at 30, which is double what this is, a little less per month. But I don't have to remember to back up my site, update my plugins, and I don't have to I get like proactive security monitoring, because site security is one of those big things that I know everybody worries about. It can be a technical black hole for some people. I know enough to know who to go ask, like full transparency when it comes to like the security stuff. And so, I have them as a trusted partner that they're going to keep all that secure. So that is, how do you know what hosting plan you need? You need to know how many visitors you've got and how much storage your site takes up. So we talked about visitors. How do I know how much my site takes up? I don't know how you do this on Squarespace, but if you use something like, there's Squarespace, there's Showit, there's Webflow. There's a lot of them out there these days. And so just reach out to their customer support if you don't know how to do it. If you're on a WordPress site, there's not usually WordPress support because you're paying anyway. But knowing like, okay, so my directory size is, and this is everything like / the WordPress. So this is the number we want. What's my total installation size? Because if there's too little available on the servers you've got, you're going to run into issues when you try to update. It's going to cause problems. So knowing of like, okay, this is how big my site is. And the more content you've got, the more that's going to expand. Things that can make this bigger than it needs to be, image sizes. And if you're actually hosting videos in your, so like, I don't have any, I'm not hosting videos, obviously, because I don't want to do that. That's why I put them on YouTube and then I link them, or as I build the blog content and stuff on my site, I'm linking them in that content. So it's actually embedded from YouTube. So I'm not incurring those video hosting costs. Those are things you can run into if you're trying to run, you have your site on WordPress, you're running your membership also through the same site on WordPress, which I actually have that separate because if one goes down, both of them don't go down, which is important because tech will tech and sometimes things happen. But if I'm bringing in, this is a 2 megabyte image, that's pretty reasonable. I can see how many pixels this is. So what you want to do is a lot of times people will download. So if you go to a site like Unsplash, let me go see if I can find, because I know there's an image I use. All right, so this is one that I use a lot, and I know that this is on Unsplash. And so you can see that this is also 2 megabytes because it is cropped. I cropped these in Canva before I uploaded them because that's going to help out my file size. The actual file size of this image is a couple of gigabytes. So if you are uploading just straight images and not using a tool like Canva to resize them to work on the web, and this includes even if you're taking pictures with your phone and bringing them up, that is going to eat into this. I upload 5 of those, bam, I'm already at my 10 gigabyte storage. So you want to look to see and make sure that you're uploading images that are the right size for your site, because that will also affect site speed, etc. I've seen that a lot on some of the sites that I've visited lately from, either other coaches or other people in the business space, is they just have these huge images that I know are not optimized and their pages suffer as a result. So images, if you can have your video hosted elsewhere, do that. And so that will help you reduce the size of how much you need to get there. Oh, and how I got to that tools, you go to tools and you just go to site health. This is this is part of WordPress itself. And then I just went to info. And so you can see directories and size is what I want. So that will help. And then let me see. Okay. All right, I saw a question. Let's see if we have any questions over this. If we don't, I will go ahead and move on. I already kind of touched on this, but the main difference between this hosting and this hosting is that one, this is optimized to run specifically on WordPress. And I wish I'd remembered to take a screenshot of what the speed savings is. When you go with managed hosting, your site's going, and you're using WordPress, your site's going to be more secure because you don't have to worry about a lot of that, because that the managed part of it is they handle all of that, which, you know, saves time. The other part is the support's usually a lot better. One of the reasons I left the other is because so I'll tell you about, so they will offer things that are like, these are WordPress hosting that says managed WordPress hosting. That's different because they're using it defined a little bit differently. So this versus this is pretty similar. I just like the yeah, again, I'm an agency partner for them. So I did get some prospects on my own hosting. And that there is like the clicking, and it's just so easy if I'm running an update. So it's not a question somebody asked, but I'm going to address it here anyway, is, you know, what do I do if my site breaks or things like that? Well, that's why having the automated backups is helpful, because I always have that restore point, and I have somebody also help me troubleshoot if I need it. I'm not signed in back, but when you're in the development world, you usually have 3 different environments, and they should generally be pretty much in parity. What the public sees and interacts with is usually called a production environment. So if you go to my website now, that's production. It's what's on stage, or it's what is being performed and the audience sees. There's a backstage area, which is usually called staging, which is what I'm able to do, is like I can test, or they have kind of an automated thing that uses AI to do testing on any plugin updates, but they do that on a staging environment. So if something breaks during an update, I can see that on staging and fix it before updating everything up, or before giving it the go ahead for everything to go up to the next level. And then you also have development, which is usually if you're working with a web designer, they will build in a development environment, which is a site that you can't get to unless you've got like a username or password to it. So it's not something that search engines see. So you have a place that you can do your site while you're developing it. They have a service called local, and so I can do that and pull it just on my computer and then push it up. So that the workflow is a lot easier with this. If I'm wanting to do anything to my own site, because you're still responsible for building your site. You just get more support or things whenever things go wrong than like the people you talk to here, not necessarily WordPress experts, versus working with WordPress dedicating, you get WordPress experts. So that's why I went with managed hosting there. And like, to be honest, I am a little leery of what they're calling managed hosting being on parity with what this is, simply because of the price point with things, but they could be changing that up. So definitely look at both, but this also has much higher, and you can also see of what level. So if you have that, so you've got that. All right, let's see. So I already covered like why I chose managed hosting. The number one reason is time savings and security. So the next question I have is, what's the difference between hosting and my domain? And this is a really good question because a lot of them will say, yeah, this doesn't say anything about domain, which is fine because you will have some domain companies, like, don't use them, but like GoDaddy is what most people think of when they come up with domains because that's one of the things they sell. You can use something like Namecheap. I was using Google Domains. They sold all that to Squarespace. So my domain's actually now with Squarespace, but I don't use them, which is always fun and interesting. But your domain is one cost, which usually, if you're getting like a .com or something like that, is typically about, I think I paid $12 a year on it. And you can have as many domains as you want, and you can have them all go into the same site. Because I actually do own several different domains. Domains do not always come with hosting. Yeah, so you host with us or any provider. The domain is the digital address of things. The hosting is the actual physical real world location where your site lives and is stored. And the domain is what hooks that and brings that digital. So it's actually two different components. You do have to have both. Again, the biggest thing with domain names is it just needs to be memorable. If you can get your name, cool. I actually do own ashleyclayton.com, as well as ITERATEOLOGY. Your domain name doesn't actually matter for SEO. So spoiler alert on that. Just something memorable, something preferably kind of short as well. And that's easy. So that's the main difference between hosting and domains. You just have to know that you've got both, and it's two different costs. Okay. And then, so let's see, the last question that I've gotten, I think this is a really, really good one. It's not directly website related, but, you know, starting out, and I know I've made these same, and they can be expensive, not necessarily mistakes, but just overextending yourself very easily with tech, because there's kind of like a lot of the things tools like to say is you only need to close one client or one deal to pay for our product 10 times over or whatever it is. I was in the real estate tech industry. That is an old and tired joke there. You just need to close one deal or one loan or sell one house and ta-da. So, but it is a very, very valid thing because as soon as you indicate you're a business owner, you're going to come in and there's going to be, actually, let me switch over to this real quick before we get into this, because you become a coach and maybe you're part of a program and someone's like, hey, this is what I use. And it could be an all-in-one system. There are a lot of them out there. And I know coaches that are like, hey, you should use this because that's what I use. Well, the thing is those all-in-one systems, often like they do one core thing really well. They might do another passable or this or this thing, but then you're locked into this ecosystem, or they're like, hey, it's a free trial. And then that free trial expires and the tools like, 100 plus 300, whatever, I don't know exactly how much that tool is because I don't look at it, but it's, and then you wind up saying, well, I don't like the way this all-in-one that I have is, and then you add on, this other thing. And then before you know it, you're paying a lot of money each month for technology that you are not probably using all of it or using it all effectively. And I will say I am very biased against, for the most part, all-in-ones, mainly because when you get to the point where you're like ready to have that level of, it's easier for maybe a team member or somebody to manage that all-in-one platform or something. you have a larger team that you're working with. If you're just starting out, you don't need all the fancy stuff. Grow into that complexity. So let me go back to share my screen. So the other thing, so the way I kind of approach this is think of your coaching business like an ecosystem. And there are all these different components that are in there. Your website is just one kind of component. Taking the website completely out of the equation for a second. You need, and I'm gonna flip over to this other one. This is something I did for a while back, and these are just, let's focus on this. So if you're just starting out, focus on the green, because I've listed kind of like what I use, or what you can use, and you have to have a way to take people's money securely. So you just need a payment processor. You can set something up on Stripe because it lets you set up products directly in it. And then you just send a link to that product. Boom, somebody can pay you. It's secure. Everybody's happy. Then you need a way for somebody to actually book a session with you, whether that's a free discovery session or you're actually booking them for a paid coaching session. I cannot talk today. So that's the second thing. Third thing is you have to have some way of communicating with them. Most people, if you're doing coaching, that is a video conference call, similar to, well, this isn't really video conference, but Zoom's usually the popular one. I actually use Google Meet because I'm already paying for Google Workspaces, and that's included at the level that I'm at because I can record it. So when you're thinking about like what system you want, I recommend having a system that will let you record coaching calls. Zoom you can get free for up to 40 minutes. And so that's usually good because you have that hard stop because it will cut you off if you're doing that. I think you can only store on your computer itself. So you will want another place to do that. Again, usually, actually their business standard went up to, I think it's 15 a user now. But I don't even address the needs for disk space storage here, but payment processor, a way for them to book. You can use Calendly. Google actually now has, and I will probably actually be moving away from Calendly, appointment setting capacities within its calendar. So I'm going to be playing around with that a little bit more during one of my vacations to kind of explore it as an option. Because that's the other thing. My tech stack is constantly evolving and growing as I'm discovering, okay, I like this doesn't work. That's what being in business is a series of these constant experiments. So you need to also have a way to collect emails. So actually we're going to change. So the systems you have to have, I'm going to change these to red because these are non-negotiable systems. These are actually kind of the same thing. So, and when I say coaching call platform, that could also be if you're doing it strictly through Voxer or Marco Polo. Those are other options because those are kind of asynchronous communication tools that they can kind of ask you questions that they have, and then you can go back and forth, independent of like an appointment. But whatever form your coaching takes, you have to have a way to deliver that to your client. And this is really just a fulfillment system. The other thing is that you have to have an email service provider. This is what lets you send an email broadcast out. the one that I recommend there is MailerLite. It's what I use because you can set up opt-in pages easily, even if it's just a join my newsletter list or join my coaching wait list. Actually, that's what I would set up, is set up a wait list opt-in page, regardless of what system you use. But you can do it in MailerLite because then you have something you can lead people into, that you can start building that list of people that want coaching from you, and have a list and a way to readily email them all at once to start those conversations. So email service provider, coaching platform, payment processor, and a way for them to get on your calendar that is not a bunch of email back and forth. Like, I don't really even have a sales page up for my coaching, full disclosure right now. That's something that I will be building as I build out my website. But those are the main things that you have to have. And you can do all of that for free. Because Stripe is free, but in the sense that it takes a percentage of whatever money goes through it. That is pretty standard for a payment processor. There are other ones out there that don't take a fee like that, but you usually have to pay a monthly fee. So either way, you're going to be paying. And then Calendly, you can have a free event type. And then you can use that for like your free coaching discovery call. And then once they are actually a client, that's where you can start like letting them use your Google Calendar link or something like that, because you have more control over it then. And then MailerLite is free. The free plan is up to 1,000 subscribers. Once you pay the $10 tier, it does go down to 500, but you get to do things like have a custom subdomain, remove the MailerLite branding. I pay the $10 because that's what I wanted to do. And so I may be changing some of that too, because I'm moving my landing pages to my actual website now that I have it up. All right. So all I have to say, all of that you can do for free or very, very low cost in the case of your payment processor. When it comes to your website, you're going to have your hosting cost. And again, when you sign up, they are going to want a minimum of a year commitment. So don't get fooled by this like $2.99 a month. It's going to be closer to 100 and something initially up front, unless you are trying to cash flow it, not bankroll, cash roll altogether. And then you're looking at something like, okay, this is going to be really $30 a month. This, let me go back up for, is also, sorry, I'm trying to figure out like what these are. Okay, so this is one where you don't have transaction fees. So they run it. So they probably have some sort of processor with it. Yeah. So it might be worth it if you want to do courses. And this is where you really get into, think about what your strategy is. How do you want to do this? Don't get so hung up on like transaction costs. There's always a cost of doing business. And if you try to like be smart about it, but like don't get so in the weeds that you're spending more time trying to like nickel and dime yourself way down to like the leanest, cheapest thing possible. Because one, sometimes you get what you pay for with that, and it winds up costing you a lot of time. And two, like what is good enough to get you moving forward and not eating up a lot of your resources. So Squarespace is an option if you want to do that. I will point this out because I'm going to start actually experimenting with this. I want to give a big shout out to Miss Karina for pointing me to this system. And so this is something called Paperbell. You can do a free account that's free through one client. And then at that point, they ask you to upgrade your account. But this handles your scheduling, billing, and payments, and things like that. And so this is something I'm experimenting with. I will probably be doing a full review on this on my YouTube channel at some point. But that's also like $57 per month. And this is not including a website. This is more kind of the support stuff for the website. So why have I not shown you or talked about all of these tools? Let's go back to thinking about the ecosystems. So in business, you have to have your admin stuff, which is, you know, your business foundations. You've got your legal ducks in a row. Not a lawyer, consult one, please. Your financial stuff, bookkeeping, all of that. You can kind of start doing it yourself. Also not a bookkeeper, so please find somebody trusted if you've got questions, and a way to kind of track the different things as you create new products and things. And I think that's why, like, your first year of coaching or starting your business is the hardest, is because everything you're doing is starting from scratch. My 2024 is going to be a lot easier because of everything that I've done and moved forward in 2023, because I'm not starting from the same spot that I was. And that's why consistent action is so important, even if you've changed a lot. And I'll even share like my old sitemap thing that I did maybe a year and a half ago, because it's changed. I needed to redo another one. But it's kind of touching on some of the same things in the tech stack is you have to have that email service provider. You have to have order and fulfillment systems for when somebody, purchases from you. So ultimately, like, something purchases, you have to have a way to manage those clients because you're fulfilling it. And I'll share this, a link to this in our Facebook group, so you can kind of explore this a little bit. For those curious, this is a tool called Figma. I use it to map all the things. I love it. Because it's a good way to just get the thinking out of your head. This is where I always start with any project, any kind of problem, because when you're thinking about what do I need in my tech stack? Well, I've got my website, which, can have my sales and landing pages on it. My sales and landing pages could also be done through an email service provider. There's even a third option where it could be something through something like Lead Pages. It's up to you how you want to set that up, what you want to introduce, how complex you want your system to be. You don't need to do that. And then you've got your purchase systems. And this is where something like ThriveCart or I don't remember. There are a lot of like funnel builders on the market, and I want you to just set that term aside for a second, because all a funnel is a customer journey that you've kind of mapped with intention. Awesome. And so sorry. So if you're sending somebody to an email opt-in page and they're opting in, and then you nurture them through email, guess what? You've got a funnel. It's really funnels are just how you map your sales ecosystem. And so this really is kind of a way to look at funnels. Is you've got your awareness systems. So all of your social media, SEO written articles, podcast blogs, guest posts. So being in other people's audiences and spaces. This Facebook group is actually an example of a nurture system. So I have an email list, yes, but this is something that I'm in and actually interacting with you guys a lot more, so you can get to know me, ask questions, get you get the support that you need, and eventually down the road, hello, transparency, you know, you might become a client of mine, or you might sign up for my membership, or just something like that, or we could form a collaboration. There's a lot of different possibilities that could happen. That's, again, one of the reasons I started this, is to really nurture and build a community around tech and marketing for coaches. I skipped over capture systems because these are the ones that most people are aware of. So it's your opt-in pages. If you're doing a free call offer, it's how are you getting people from getting them from not knowing who you are to following you on social, to going to your website, to then becoming getting on your email list, or joining a Facebook community. And then how are you building that relationship with them in the hopes or with the intention that some form of partnership. So if it helps, think of these as like, instead of conversion systems, they're partnerships, because that's how I approach coaching, is like, this is a partnership between like the knowledge I have to bring to the table, your knowledge and your goals and all of that, to kind of come together where, you know, 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 1, it equals so much more. And so within your conversion or offer systems, essentially, you want to eventually, like I said, don't start here. You do not start here. I have tried. I made this mistake. You do not start at this point. Start with one thing for starting out. Usually that's 1-to-1 coaching and a lead magnet. Like, start there. If you don't have those going, and I would argue that since I don't actually have a sales page up for my 1-to-1 coaching, you don't have to have a sales page up. This is me telling me things. That's a step I need to take back. I need to, like, that'll be the next page that I build for my website, is 1-to-1 coaching, because then I have somebody can get lead magnet or join the Facebook group, and then I can always direct to that as a page for a paid product, or something that if somebody asks me for more information, I can email them that link that has all the details about it after being on one of the free consultation calls that I've had. So usually you'll have something here, or you could develop, if you wanted to put together a planner and that's what you're selling, you know, you can do that too. So there's, again, I'll share this so you can look at it, but there's different examples here for what is there. And all of your offers are going to stem from your business foundation. So if you have not, forgot Figma does that. Thank you. If you don't have your business foundations, and so that's like, you know, who you serve, how you serve them, and your offers are what you have or what you do to fill that purpose, fill that role in the mission. You need to have those in place, because that's how you're going to create a strategic marketing ecosystem that builds on and supports itself. So if I'm selling the one-on-one coaching, well, how I set that up, and when I say how, it's more like how I position it, what spin I put on the coaching will then dictate what lead magnets I do. So I'm a tech and marketing coach. Well, I've got my Tech Made Easy guide, which is then, you know, driving people into my Facebook group or my free calls. And then from there, you guys, you know, can come to know how my style of teaching and different things like that. So that's how all of that fits together. Your website itself becomes an employee that drives to collecting emails, drives to your offer and purchase system. And then it is part of your marketing system. And that is why I've spent so much time on websites. And even leading into like the SEO and things like that, because I want you to succeed with your website. A website is an investment. I'm not mincing that at all. I want you to get the most out of that. Because a well done website like can act as its own sales force as well. All right. So the very last thing that I promise you is, so using Figma to set up things. This is, I don't remember when I did this. I want to say this is about a year old, where I have like, here's my home page. Let me zoom in a little bit because this is really okay. So you've essentially got your home page, and then anything that's gray is where I think I want to do, because when I map out a website or anything that I want to do, so pretend like this isn't a website for a second. If I'm mapping out all my offers, I'm going to start and just map out everything that I can think of. I like to use like a lighter color. And then if it's live, I'll make it the darker color. So that's one way you can do this. And you just can add little shapes down here. Just start with that. I don't know why rectangle is not a default shape. It is most annoying. But if you place a square, you can, it gives you a space for text, but you can just do that and then just type in whatever text you want. And then you can just kind of copy and paste to create more of them, and you can create these arrows. So it's a pretty, playing around with it. I might do a Figma demo later, but the idea is you usually have like work with me, so that what what's highlighted here, like the base site. So homepage, right now I have a section that's how to work with me, about. And then so I mapped all the different places I might want to take this. And then you also have like, here is, email form submission. So I'm even thinking about analytics pieces of it, but I've also been in this space for 15 years. So there's different types of pages on your site. And I'm actually going to take this little banner thing down because I've really deviated from this question, which happens sometimes, which is fine. So let me just add one real quick. All right, so we're going to do how to think about pages on your site. You have things like your home page, which are directory and navigational. Every page on your site should have a goal of some sort, because depending on how the page is supposed to work, that's how you're going to think about things down the road when you're trying to see how is your site doing. Because this is a bit of a segue into next month's topic, but this is also how I approach website planning, which is why it's relevant here. Your homepage is a directory or navigational page. It's meant for somebody to land on it, have a couple of, array of options to choose from to figure out what their next step in the journey is. Because most, let's pretend we've got a user flow where they go to, they see a video or something on YouTube. They click through to either a landing page, or if I've linked to a blog post that's a resource, they're going to go to that resource and then read through it, and then immediately usually go to the home page or the about page. It's one of those two. My experience in analytics tells me generally it's the home page. And so when that happens, you want your homepage to immediately show somebody. Let's go. Within 3 seconds. Oh, I want to visit the page, please. Thank you. User error. Happens to the best of us. But within 3 seconds, it's like, do a quick glance test. Can you tell me, like, oh, coaching business? Okay, so if I'm coach, I'm definitely going to perk up and pay attention. And then I, like in this, I think I want to revamp it, but that's But that way I know who this person serves. I'm pretend like I'm not me looking at the site. I can see a couple of things that they offer. So if I was like coaching business, okay, cool. How am I going to transform it? And I didn't read this paragraph because people skim, they don't read. It's okay. Well, they've got a tech guide and they've got Google Analytics. Oh, wow. That I noticed my Google Analytics quit working, or my analytics on my site quit working. Let me go figure that out. Boom. And then they can download and see, or it's like, okay, well, what do they offer? And so that's why I have these different sections. And it's like, well, okay, this is really interesting, but why is this the person that can help me? Oh, she is, oh, I don't have it on here. I probably should. And I'm even seeing stuff that I want to tweak that I know will help with like reinforcing, like, hey, I'm also a coach too, different things like that. And oh, she's worked with people, and oh, I can play around and see some of her frequently asked questions kind of thing. Again, last two sections kind of optional. If you've got it, including like logos and places you've been featured is also key for a site like this. And again, I have a simple site right now because I'm growing into my complexity. I am walking what I am teaching you. Just a couple of steps ahead. But the point of this is kind of people can choose their own adventure. Now, I'm going to click on this, and this is an example of a persuasion page. So your opt-in pages are persuasion pages. The goal of this page and how this page is supposed to work is to get you to go do the next action, whether that's sign up for my membership or download the freebie or book a free call with me. That's the purpose of this page. It's not meant to like strictly inform on a topic or anything. It's a sales page. Call it what it is. And so understanding of what this is and knowing how the sales page works, it's important as well. So other pages that are in your website. About, this is, I would classify this as a engagement page because the idea is, excuse me, you want somebody to engage with you. It's not, it could also be a persuasion page of a sort where you're driving towards your services and what you do. So the idea is you want them to go check out the services. It's what is that next step in the journey? How does this page fit in? That's how I go about creating you see me waving over here. It's because the monitor that you're looking at is over here. It's like, that's how you go about creating what your website, how your website needs to be structured, what it needs. Because you also have like, you can do a start here, which could be, my blog page, which the page that lists all your blog posts, that's an example of a directory page. An individual blog post is an engagement page. I actually do want to back up a step because opt-in page, not always it is a persuasion page, but it's more of a gatekeep page where you have to give something to get something, which is where you've got your checkout page is meant to only drive to the checkout. So you shouldn't be convincing people to still buy necessarily. That lift should have been done on your sales page. And then like the thank you page that you've got, like that would be, oh, they've completed the journey. So think about your site and how you would classify each of the pages. My site does not look like this. It is actually not going to look like this, but it will have kind of similar themes that are in there. And so you can see like, this is an MVP, and then I put in like what I want that URL to be, because again, that piece of the URL does matter for SEO. So think about what keywords you want your site to rank for. Think about how you want your site to come together. If you already have a site currently, you can book a free consult call with me. We can take a look to see, do you have any SEO concerns? And if so, we can talk about developing a plan to move to a more SEO friendly site structure, which does not involve a migration. We're not redesigning your site or anything like that. But if there aren't any, you have kind of that freedom and flexibility at the point that you are in your business to be able to make some of these changes that do help you structure your website better to make it easier to use. All right, I'm going to take one last look, see if there are any other questions in the comments. Had a couple people said that they needed to catch the replay, which is totally good. Oh, thank you. I should have had you guys go in and like click the StreamYard link so that way I could show your comment, because unfortunately I'm not able to. I don't know, the person that said that list building is a priority for me. I totally agree. Like, is it Amy Porterfield or Stu that's the always be list building? It might be one of the two. It could be somebody totally different, but yeah, she should always be list building. That's why, I think about websites in terms of different phases. So depending on where you are in your business, your next step. So if if you're only on social, you don't have a website up at all, don't worry about a website. Focus on getting a lead magnet and a landing page and an opt-in page for that magnet up. That lead magnet could be something that here, I'll pull mine up real quick, just so you can see. I like giving you guys kind of the behind the scenes so you can see what's going on and how I'm doing things. So, and these conversion rates are not going to be wholly accurate because there's some behind the scenes A/B testing that it was involved. But your site, let me go to this one. If you have a Facebook group or, yeah, this is where you can create. That's more advanced stuff. Let's get previous on. Where it could be as simple as you create a Facebook group like I did. And then you ask for the name and email to join the group. The reason I'm doing this is I'm not fully against paid, but you want to make sure that stuff is converting high enough before you start paying for money to go through that journey. I don't want to use funnel, calling it a journey. Because you're going to waste money if it's not, if I sent somebody this page and it's not converting well, then I don't want to run ads to it because I'm just going to be throwing money down the drain. So my goal is to get this to converting to at least, a 50, ideally 60, like 60 is usually my target. If I were in the spot where I was running ads, I'm not going to be for a bit. And I'm okay with that because this is how I'm choosing to grow. But this is also, I'm like, start with your opt-in page, because if you can collect the emails and you're collecting emails at a high enough rate and you want to go run an ad, you're in a much better spot to do it. But you don't even have, I do recommend having at least inside, like, set the expectations, prime what somebody's going to get. And even if it's just oops, I'm currently fully booked. I'd love to work with you though. Join my email list to be the first to know when I have my spots opened up. Boom. Join waitlist. Done. Like, everything that is above this button, like, it could be that simple. totally fine. So something like that, have that up, because then you're building an email list. And that's what I had. Like I said, my actual website went up in July. Or not July, sorry, August 17th is when I launched that. And I've been building my email list actively since like April. So that is how that works. And then once you've got that, so if we'll go, so the reason why I say you don't want to do anything at, the reason I'm going into this so you can actually see, this is actually what it's converting at, because this is the version that's live, is you want something that is at least converting over halfway, because then you're more likely to get a return on your investment. If I had chosen to run ads through this, I would have been losing like 70% of that money, because because I was spending it to get people there and they just weren't opting in. So then that's where it becomes a thing. Like, I don't believe you should have to spend $2,000 to $3,000 to find out if your funnel's working. No, find out and get, and that's the other reason I like MailerLite as well, is it tells me what my conversion rate is. I don't have to know. So I would not right now want to run traffic to my Facebook group opt-in. But that way you've got there. So start with the opt-in page. If you've got an opt-in page and you're wanting to kind of move on to that next phase, just start with the single page website. It's a lot easier to do. You still have to have like your copy. I had to have, what I wanted my initial branding to look like, logo, all of that, some pictures, but I didn't have to have a full sales page up. I didn't have to have my full about page up. Because really people want to know who you are, what you talk about, and how to work with you potentially. Like those are the three things questions your homepage needs to answer. All right. Well, I'm actually over time just a little bit. You guys have a great day. And remember, you can always submit questions through that same, and I'll link it again, form. Next month is going to be Google Analytics in the membership that we'll be kind of covering. And you can also ask other non-Google Analytics related questions as well, because what the free group is I will answer questions individually, or you'll have like a free tech tip or something of the week. So next week I'll send one about like where to find royalty-free stock royalty-free stock images for your website, so that way you don't get in trouble for using copyrighted images, because that's a whole thing. All right, have a great day.